Hello and welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, joined as always by my co-host, Vivian Hudson. How are you, Viv?
I'm great, thanks, Mike. And it's good to see we have another special guest. So, would you like to introduce our special guest today?
Yeah, today we have on Jason Smith from Paradigm, and I have gotten more phone calls and inquiries about this program over the last month than I think, well, maybe maybe along with our pharmacy program, this has got to be the thing that sales reps are very interested in because there's a huge demand for physicians out there, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about the different revenue models that are available to physicians. So, Jason, thank you very much for getting on and kind of clearing the muddy waters here and bringing everyone up to speed.
Well, I want to thank you and Vivian for having me. It's my pleasure.
So first and foremost, what you guys offer is we, on our end, we just refer to it as a K1 investment model. But could you clarify what you guys do and what you're offering to physicians?
Sure. What we do is we offer a network of physicians or a network for physicians that provide them the opportunity to capture or to monetize any of their high contribution products or services within their practices in one offering. So instead of, a joint venture model or something like that, we are taking a variety of different products and services within and putting them in verticals and then putting them into the network and allowing your physician network to have access to them and in a legal and compliant manner monetize or capture some profit from those products and services.
What would some examples of these services that feed into the network be?
Sure. So you've got your typical players of your laboratory, whether it be urine tox screening, blood, pathology, things like that. And you have your typical specialty pharmacy, mail order pharmacy, compounding pharmacy. But in reality, the network is expanding rapidly, and we're reaching out into other things such as products within ambulatory surgical center or hospital settings, such as screws, plates, biologics, injection kits, things like that. And the goal is not to stop with just healthcare offerings. In fact, we just recently signed a contract with a vendor for HIPAA compliant office equipment, such as fax machines and printers. And we're looking at financial services, amongst other things, marketing, third-party billing, things like that. So the goal is to not just stop with products and services that are used in, the provision or the providing of patient care, but also to look at everything basically that a physician would need to purchase to support their practice.
Wow, it sounds like quite a mixed bag that you got in there with all those different products. And I'm certain that there's pretty much a handful of things in there for pretty much every practice. So how do you keep it compliant so that it doesn't contravene any Stark laws or anti-kickbacks and things like that? So that's often one of these questions that doctors have when they're looking at these sorts of things.
Oh, sure. It's actually generally the first question that gets asked, or if not the first, it's the second. So the primary aspect of what we do is that we are dealing with your commercial payer type things. We are able to accept federal payers, Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, but those are not permitted at this time to monetize the network. We do accept them, and we can, and so for continuity of care within the practice and for ease of use, we can accept them. They just can't monetize the network. But we're focusing on primarily, the commercial payers. And then what we do and part of the secret sauce of the network is that we, in a very compliant accounting method, we maintain track of each individual dollar that's brought into the network. And we ensure that the referring entity for that dollar will never benefit from it. And without getting too further into it, basically, this is an accounting model and an investment model at its core. And through, following very closely with the variety of different laws, we're able to account for the money in a manner that remains compliant so as to not run afoul of any of the state laws on self-referral.
So the physician is generating revenue from these services that they're participating in, but they're never paid for those direct referrals.
Correct.
Okay. Now, one of the things that, we are in the ancillary space. This is about, and this is about as down and dirty as it gets sometimes with,
Yep.
How do you guys ensure that the partner vendors are going to be disclosing all the numbers that are actually going through?
Yeah, so what we do is we have a software, we call it a software package. It's no different than really going to like Amazon online and logging in, and you may put the Amazon logo or app logo on your phone or your computer, and when you click on that app, you're not actually accessing any software that's on your computer. You're just accessing a link to, HTTP. You log in and use your ID and password. You would go into our portal much the same way you would go into Amazon, and you would say, if I'm going to order this specific item, I would go in and I would order it. I would fill it all out, who it was going to be for, where, what was going to be done. And then that portal will send that, requisition off to the vendor that we have. And our vendors agree to use that software as their point of ordering with us. So it maintains very closely the actual volumes that the physicians are sending and that the labs are receiving. And more importantly, for certain things that might require some prior authorization, it handles that at the point of order as well. And so there's not a question later of whether or not the request was accepted. We'll know at that point if it's a compound. We'll know that it is going to be paid at the point of entry into the portal. So, we had talked earlier about whether or not it's good for the practice, it's good for the patient, and it's profitable. We think this is very good for the practice because it will standardize the method by which the practices are ordering or sending requisitions.
So as far as practice profitability, like what is that going to look like? Why would a physician want to invest in, and what's involved in that?
Sure. And so the Paradigm network is basically based on a paradigm shift in the distribution chain of healthcare services. And the idea here is that we're building a closer bond between the physicians who require the products and services for the care that they provide to their patients, and for the providers or the vendors that are providing those products and services. And so what we're doing is we're shifting some of the profitability of that network to the physicians in a compliant manner. And so the physician will be able to realize profitability from things or products and services that they're purchasing for their practice that they otherwise would not have been able to monetize. Or if they were able to monetize them, there was a significant outlay of money or capital, and perhaps a very challenging process by which they would have to follow and remain compliant with. So you can do the math. Any physician that might have looked at a variety of different ways to individually monetize certain aspects of their products or services, this provides it all in one very tight package where the compliance aspect is placed back on the network, not on the physician. So the physician can get back to practicing medicine and dealing with their patients, but able to monetize what they were doing in a compliant way and allow Paradigm to provide that service to them.
It seems like you have a little bit of everything. I've taken a look at the menu, and like you said, the big drivers are going to be lab services, some of the pharmacy, biologics, DME, surgical, things like that. So it seems like there's something in there for everyone, but do you see practices or specialties that are particularly, let's call it low-hanging fruit, where this just makes perfect sense for them?
Sure. So right out of the gate, any practice or any specialty that does a lot of your urine tox screening and your compounding. So you go right towards the pain management, the ortho spine, things like that. But the beauty of the network is because it is such a wide menu of products and services that you can choose from, it really is an opportunity for everyone. And so there are quite a few neurologists and podiatrists in the network. General practitioners can be in the network. It might be the case that the ownership opportunities are lower because of what can be provided into the network, but everyone really can participate. But if you go back to the low-hanging fruit at this current time, of course, it is kind of the urine tox, the compounding, and the specialty pharmacy and things like that, blood and pathology as well.
Well, can I put you on the spot a little bit here, Jason? Because the thing about your program is I've been through the webinars, I've seen it. I think it's fantastic. It's a great model. But this this is not something that the average rep is probably comfortable talking about, or probably has the authorization to talk about. I mean, we can't give financial advice to a doctor.
Sure.
That's not in our purview. But could you maybe help us with what would be your elevator pitch? What would be your 1 minute conversation that you would have with a physician if you are in the position of a sales rep that has a good relationship, but we don't know enough about this to really speak beyond the general terms that you've given us? What would you say to a rep that's trying to get a new doctor interested in taking the next step?
Sure. The kind of the elevator pitch that I've recommended is you have a conversation with a physician and you say, "Doctor, would you be interested in listening to an investment opportunity that offered you a regulatory or a compliant model that allowed you to diversify your portfolio in a manner that would allow you to capture all high contribution products and services that you're offering in your practice?" So, doctor, would you be willing to sit down for 20 minutes and speak to somebody from Paradigm about that opportunity? And most physicians will say, sure, because it's really, there's no risk associated with having that 20, 30-minute conversation. But really, that's what we're offering, an opportunity to capture or to monetize your high contribution products and services in a compliant model where you invest and become an owner, and you benefit from that.
So if we've got a doctor that's interested, what is the next steps? How do we get them started?
So what I would ask is anyone in your, they contact you to put them in touch with Paradigm, and what we would do with the physician is we would send the physician an electronic non-disclosure agreement, because we will get into the details of the model in the presentation, and it's a mutual NDA where we basically, as Paradigm, we agree not to share the specifics of the practice, and the practice agrees not to share the specifics of the model, and we basically create a webinar for them that can be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes without questions and 30 to 45 minutes with questions, where the founder of the network will sit down and go through a webinar with them and explain pretty much everything from inception of the model to how it operates now and how we manage it. So if you have physicians that are interested, have your network contact you and get them in touch with Paradigm, and we'd be happy to send an NDA to those physicians and send them an invitation to a webinar.
Well, that's easy enough. That's the other thing I like about this. At first, it looked confusing, but then I realized all you guys are relying on us for is to generate interest. We are not authorized to talk about the specifics of it, and nor do we want to, for that matter. So, yeah, if you're out there and you have some interested physicians, this will make your life easy. Just have them sign an NDA. We get them a questionnaire that they fill out, and that will give them a clearer picture based on that questionnaire as to what this is going to look like from their standpoint. And then we get them on with the guys from Paradigm, and I've already sent some people over there. These guys are pros, so your physicians are in good hands, and there's great revenue to be made all the way around, especially for the reps. So, Jason, I want to thank you for getting on.
Thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks.